A radio cracks like a pistol. Team 2 pinned, 1 critical. Extraction over 2,100 meters. Cold map glow paints the room in harsh blue. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hale grips the handset until his knuckles show white. A 3D topo spins on the monitor. Fob Kestrel Nari Sar Valley. Rain hammers the roof in a steady drum. Hale's voice slices through static. Martinez is losing blood. QRF grounded. We need options. LCDR Ethan Rhodes stares at the feed. This is near the system's practical limit, he says. Not to deny the shot, but to put the risk on the table. Lieutenant Aaron Kim scoffs, short and hard at 100 meters in this storm. That's not a shot, that's a prayer. The dismissal lands like a stone. Procedure speaks, and the room listens in the corner. Petty Officer Second Class Natasha Nash. Volkov pulls a Kestrel meter close. The numbers blink in her visor, 34 degrees Celsius. RH 96%. Wind 35 kT gusting 48 kT. Her gloved hand rests on the stock of a Remington MSR. 338 Lapua Magnum. Fingertips finding the worn patch stitched by a father who taught her wind and silence. She says, "Flat. It's not courage. It's data." Rhodes opens Nash's classified file and lets the room read it by his silence. He looks at the map and says quietly, "If we do this, we need a spotter on the ridge. Live corrections, no guesswork." The admission tightens the air. Corporal Diaz is on net. Nash answers before Rhodes can call. He's eyes on that shelf. He's worked with me. Rhodes nods once. Authorized you move with Diaz and 2 security Marines. Medevac on standby. Below. A ragged voice cracks over the degraded channel. Can't hold much longer. Miguel Martinez. The medic reports in terse professional terms. Possible tension pneumothorax suspected. Vitals degrading. The words land cold. This is a race against physiology and weather. Rhodes glances at the operations clock and states the narrow reality out loud. HH-60M MEDEVAC can attempt approach in roughly 24 minutes if a weather window opens. The number hangs in the room like a metronome. Nash moves with machine precision. She cycles a 5-round magazine into place, clips the Kestrel to her pouch, and runs through the checklist with the quiet cadence of someone who learned to make decisions in whiteout blizzards. A flash of gnome her father's hands. His low voice, "Listen. Calculate." She breathes slow. Catalogues wind layers, factors Coriolis, and marks the valley's natural eddy that breathes every 40 to 50 seconds. Rhodes paces. Kim presses for denial. Hale's gaze finds Nash at the steady hands that have patched cold wounds before. The audio bed tightens. Martinez's breathing is a metronome of urgency. Conversation compresses into a single question: do you accept the risk? Or do you let 6 men die waiting for mercy? Nash stands, shoulders squared beneath wet gear. She slides one last hand across the patch on the rifle, tucks a final cartridge home, and shoulders the MSR. Rhodes' voice is low and precise, if you take this. It's on your head. She nods once. I read the wind. Give me the window. The speaker crackles, Squad Alpha, faint. Urgent, can't hold. The Medevac ETA is the thin line between hope and nothing. All eyes lock on Nash. She whispers a Russian phrase her father taught her, shoulders the rifle, and disappears into the storm toward the ridge with Corporal Diaz and 2 security Marines at her flank. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you want more untold stories of courage and calculation, make sure to subscribe to Stories That Salute. Every number, every choice, every life saved deserves to be remembered. Nash moves like a ghost, low, deliberate, each step a calculation. Rain turns sound into a wash. Only the slap of boots on wet rock and the faint click of her sling break the gray. Two security Marines shadow her, eyes scanning the valley like searchlights. Corporal Diaz walks just behind, optic up, radio snug at his ear. The medic does not climb with them. He is staged below in the bowl, kit ready at Martinez's side if extraction fails. They build a minimalist firing platform, 2 flat stones leveled, sandbags to damp recoil, a camo veil draped to break outline. Nash settles the MSR on the bipod, cheek to the stock, Kestrel glowing at her hip. Everything outside is weather. Everything inside is math. Rangefinder reads 2,100 meters. Diaz reports into the net. Calm and exact. 2 o'clock. 20 knots left at 1,200 meters downrange. Target level drift 3 degrees right. Eddy and 5 seconds hold 3 mils left for spin drift. Nash reads the numbers and nods once. She runs the checklist in a quiet cadence sight set. Elevation locked. 5 rounds chambered. Time of flight estimates are flashing 3.8 seconds. She keeps that rhythm in her breath. Her father's voice, listen. Calculate sits under the storm like a metronome. On the net. The medic's voice comes thin but steady from the lower bowl decompression kit staged. Chest seals ready, standing by for casualty transfer. The reminder is clinical he is close, but not with them. The smoke marker hail through, yawns into the wind, and makes a thin frame in the gray. Diaz's voice drops to a whisper only the radio catches. Hold for the lull. Now. Nash's finger eases the trigger. The shot threads the rain, a small, sharp event in a world of wet noise. A heartbeat later, Diaz confirms impact target down. No return fire. Relief moves like a shadow through the net, thin and fast. For several seconds, Diaz keeps scanning through glass. Silence thick in the channel. Only rain speaks. Then his tone sharpens, secondary glint left of the original rock. Possible second shooter. The certainty tilts. Nash cycles the bolt, chambers a fresh round. Diaz begins the new calculus, wind layers shifted, range shortened, estimated 2,050 meters. Adjust TOF to 3.7 seconds. Hold 5 mils left. Correct 2 degrees for spin drift. His voice is stripped of drama, numbers only. Nash adjusts scope clicks, steadies her breathing. The ridge and the valley seem to pulse together. This time the pause matters, a long 3 seconds of still glass before Diaz calls softly. Window, now. She lets the trigger fall. The report is swallowed again, time stretching thin. Then Diaz impact confirmed. Second shooter neutralized, no additional movement. The net exhales in one long, frayed breath. Nash does not smile. She only resets the rifle. Eyes still on glass. As rain tattoos the veil and the valley keeps its secrets. The ridge holds its breath. Nash's world narrows to a tiny circle of glass, and the math behind it, holdovers, mils, seconds. Rain tattoos the scope, a constant percussion. Below. The valley is only rumor-broken voices over radio, shadows shifting in gray. Diaz's voice cuts clean through static impact confirmed. Second shooter neutralized, no additional movement detected. The line lands heavy. This time, the valley gives no reply. For a moment there is only the hiss of weather. Nash stays on glass, every muscle locked in the cold patience of confirmation. She does not let relief move yet. The math is not done until the silence holds. Diaz scans slow. Methodical arcs left ridge, lower bowl, tree line each sweep reported in short. Clipped words, clear, clear, no glint. His restraint keeps the net calm. On the channel, Squad Alpha's medic speaks, voice tight but professional. Patient remains critical, preparing for decompression. Chest rise shallow. The sound drags the ridge back into the body's urgency. Nash cycles her bolt and resets elevation, but leaves the crosshair steady on stone. Numbers hold, she asks. Numbers hold. Diaz confirms. His tone is quieter now, but still exact. They both know the valley might keep one last secret. But until proven otherwise, this sector belongs to their math. Minutes stretch, wind shifts and rain thickens, but no hostile fire returns. Finally, Diaz lowers his optic, gives one short click on the net, a signal that will later live in the after-action log's sector green. Nash exhales through her nose. Steady. Not triumphant. She reaches for the Kestrel, logs the latest wind layers, and clips it back. Her father's voice echoes only as arithmetic. Listen. Calculate. Trust the data. Down in the bowl, procedure moves with surgical pace. The medic reports each step like a checklist for the gods. Needle decompression performed, chest seal applied, hemorrhage controlled with tourniquet. Patient stable for carry. His tone is dry, but in that dryness breath is saved from talk. Rhodes acknowledges with a clipped reply. Copy. HH-60M window remains 24 minutes. Bird inbound if weather corridor holds. The ridge is no longer a battlefield, but a ledger. 2 shots. 2 solutions. 1 life still balancing on minutes. Nash keeps her scope aligned, not because she expects another shooter, but because the discipline is the ritual. Numbers don't close until the last man is safe. Diaz settles beside her under the camo veil. The storm presses down, but their breathing has synced into a shared rhythm, math translated into pulse. Good shooting, he says. Not as praise, but as confirmation of procedure done clean. Nash does not answer immediately. She blinks rain from her lashes, fingers still on steel. Then quietly, it wasn't courage. It was data. The net is silent for a beat, and then resumes with clipped medical updates and rotor vectors. The storm has not lifted, but in its wash, a truth stands firm, a calculation carried to the end. They begin to fold the position, bipod broken down. Veil packed, stones nudged back into place. Nash slings the rifle. Her shoulders weighted not by legend, but by the math she will carry down the ridge when they move. It is not in triumph, but in synchronization. Spotter. Shooter. Security descending through rain toward the bowl where breath has been borrowed from chaos. Down in the bowl. The scene moves with urgent, practiced economy. The medic and 2 Marines thread through wet hollows, gear clinking, eyes scanning for threat as well as casualty. Nash watches from the ridge until Diaz's voice cuts into her ear. Steady and exact. Impact confirmed at 2-100 target neutralized. No immediate secondary fire from that position, Diaz reports, voice thin over rain. Nash lets herself breathe once, short and focused, on the ground. The medic finds Martinez pale and shallow, a fight in every inhalation. He calls it plainly over the net, so Talk and the bird can all hear the same language. Suspected tension, pneumothorax. Preparing immediate needle decompression. 14-gauge decompress kit on site. Applying chest seal and tourniquet as needed. Breathing support attached. There is no drama in the words, only procedure. The medic moves with a surgeon's economy, quick insertion of the decompression needle into the identified interspace. Placement of a chest seal over an open wound if present. Tourniquet applied to a bleeding limb. BVM in hand to support failing breaths. He reports each step into the radio needle decompression performed needle patent. Chest seal applied. Hemorrhage controlled with tourniquet. Patient stable for carry. Wheels of command turn fast. Rhodes keys the net MEDEVAC 7 Kestrel. Proceed hot if wind window holds ETA roughly 24 minutes for approach. Prepare for downwash and immediate hoist or short landing. The pilots confirm vectors and a slim weather corridor. The bird is moving to punch through a margin that could close at any time. The load is tight choreography. as the HH-60M roars in. Rotors send mud and water sideways. The medic calls patient status, while the Marines secure straps. Stretcher secure. Moving to bird. Prep for rapid climb. The helicopter takes the patient and climbs an ugly miracle of machine and human timing. Back at FOB Kestrel. The tension decompresses into a different kind of noise radios ticking. The net replaying impact confirmations. And commanders beginning to file narratives that will become reports. Rhodes pulls off his headset and stares at the map, the ridge. The valley. The thin margin where numbers beat chaos. He says nothing at first. Then to no one in particular. We pushed the system to the edge and held it together. The line is an admission and a benediction. Later. In the washed-out quiet of the team room. The medic's brief to command is clinical 1-needle decompression. Chest seal and tourniquet applied. Patient transferred to HH-60M and en route to forward surgical team. No additional hostile activity confirmed in sector. That line closes the immediate emergency and opens the paperwork of fate. The rifle will be retired, the plaque engraved, the bronze star processed. But in the seconds between decision and action, what mattered was simpler a spotter who read the wind, a shooter who trusted the math, and medics whose competence converted minutes into life. They leave the valley with a nervous calm, the kind that comes after work that survives. They retired the rifle like you retire a story slowly, with care. The Remington MSR sat under soft light in the team room, its stock dulled by weather and work. A small plaque beneath it reading the coordinates and the distance to 100 meters. Men and women filtered past, fingers tracing old scuffs as if reading Braille. Some left a quiet salute, others said the name and kept walking Stormwalker. Nash watched them through the half door of the locker room, rain still in the seams of her jacket, and felt the odd tug of something that did not fit the hero versus an engineer's satisfaction more than a warrior's pride. In the months after, the base shifted back toward routine. Medevac calls shrank into logs, maintenance replaced the adrenaline of the night, and paperwork became the quiet grammar of survival after-action reports, promotion packages, a bronze star with a V stenciled into a file that would go dark to most eyes. LCDR Ethan Rhodes signed his name with ink that seemed heavier afterward. Lieutenant Aaron Kim stopped scoffing and started listening when Nash briefed him on wind layers and eddy patterns. He took notes like he had discovered a new language. Nash did not want a monument. She wanted the students to understand the math under the myth. So she taught. On a cold range with the air hanging at 34 degrees and the Kestrel humming in the pocket of a trainee's jacket. She showed them how storms spoke, how humidity. A gust to 48 knots, and a fraction of a degree could turn a truth into failure. She taught them to read the world the way her father had taught her listen. Calculate. Her lessons were practical, spare, too precise for applause. Yet the faces in front of her changed. They learned to measure fear and then set it aside. There were small, private markers. A medic who had been at Martinez's side came back one evening and simply said, "Thanks." Martinez himself, steady now, clasped her gloved finger in a field hospital tent. The way a man gives thanks when words fail. Rhodes would later tell the story in a speech, and he would quote a line he had heard on that wet net. It wasn't courage, it was data. The line stuck because it was true and because it refused to be tidy. The plaque under the rifle gathered the fingerprints of those who passed it. The name Stormwalker softened into a legend that the new kids used as shorthand for competence, someone who could carry a calculation into a gunshot and bring men home. Nash never liked being called a legend. She liked the small arithmetic that saved breath and heartbeat outside the base. The valley healed into ordinary things: mud, tide, weather, inside. A lesson settled into the routines of those who would later stand in the cold and make impossible choices. One line they repeated when the night widened and the wind lied and the radios went thin: storms are data. Courage is doing the calculation anyway.